Hello, this is Patrick Timiao, and welcome back. Today we're going to discuss the digital side of my audiophile system. And by that I mean CD playing, downloading, anything that comes in the digital format. There's a lot of technology in the last 10, 15 years about that. In fact, it's an engineering explosion what's going on in the digital world. Specifically the digital to analog conversion systems. So without sounding too fancy, let's walk through the components, and that way we can understand what they do. So when I wanted to buy a CD system for my rig, I was reading carefully all the magazines and the reviews, and for me, I decided to go with the T+A unit. It was very well regarded as a solid, robust CD player. And specifically, it was highly recommended because of its high-quality digital to analog conversion system that it has in it. Now, basically what those two do, one spins the record for the digital record or digital means of music, and the other interprets the numbers that are digital and translates it into analog signal for us to hear the music. So basically, when I refer to a digital analog system, that's basically what it's doing. It's taking the numbers and interpreting them to then deliver an analog sound that we all know. That science has been exploding in the last several years. So that's why I, back then, paid very specific attention to the digital audio converter side of a CD player, because that's really where the secrets are. The more engineered, the more experienced the interpretation means are, the better digital to analog sound you're going to get. And by better, we mean, in this conversation, more true to source, okay? True to source for real. Meaning when you close your eyes and you listen, it's not a big leap of faith to believe that you're not sitting in a room with the musicians. That's what a reference level listening is. You close your eyes, and it's kind of hard to believe you're not there. That's the trick. So I thought I was all set with this. And I was actually quite happy with the system. Don't get me wrong. But then I started to read more and learn more. And as I came upon a point in time where I had to decide, do I go up on my vinyl investment and get into the fancier, newer turntables because I love the analog sound and nothing replaces this yet? Or do I start to poke at the digital side because it's so easy to reach music in the digital world? At your fingertips, I can dial David Bowie, I can dial Oscar Peterson, Jacko, Steely Dan, and every contradiction you can imagine. MC5, for those who remember. So it's stupid not to have access to that in today's world, because no matter how many records I buy, how many CDs I own, I'm still looking for music. Music is explorative. So there's a lot to discover. And so how much more convenient can it get than to sit on a couch and dial those up just by asking for their names? And then you have the entire library come up and you can listen to exactly the song you want. I wanted to discover music more than the music I know, because I usually buy the music I know, but I'm much more interested in discovery for my next favorite. So for me to do that, I could only do it with the turntable, until I started to see how good the CDs were coming along, and in particular, how much I read about the DA conversion and the new technologies available. And that's where I came up upon what I invested in just the last year, this DCS Apex unit. The stack of three things here we'll discuss in a second. That's a digital DA conversion system. That, like I said earlier, is usually in the form of a chip inside your CD player, your iPhone, your computer music. It's about DA big, whereas this is a three-component isolated group of synergistical system. So we mentioned earlier the magic in delivering digital music is interpreting the numbers. There's software that does that. Some is more complex than others, and some has more historical data buildup than others, depending on the company that is creating the software. In my case, I had a strong opinion about the DCS company because that's basically all they do. That's what their name says, Digital Conversion Systems, DCS. That's all they've done all along, and they did it for the professional industry first, and long before anybody else. But of course, their products were unattainable and totally impractical. When you walk around with a Walkman or something, for those still do, that chip is like this, like I said, whereas you're looking at a monster here. It's a beautiful monster, but it's a monster of a DA. In fact, DCS calls it the Apex system. It's nothing short of that. The DCS Apex DA conversion system. So why is there 3 boxes? Well, these guys acquire data and re-engineer, acquire data and re-engineer. So it's only natural, if you're in that world, that the more you discover, the more you can turn around and deliver a product based on the latest discoveries. Especially if you have a long-running history with data. Same thing in Formula One, same thing in anything very complex and very intricate. The more data, the smarter the end product. This is a perfect application of it. Without pretending that I'm selling this product, but basically you have a bunch of crazy engineers that do nothing but this and get lost in their world, and then come back with something practical we can listen to in the form of beautiful music. So, to explain what happened, this is very pricey. It's a 6-digit number. It took me 5 years to realize and understand and accept this kind of price level, but so it wasn't something I could do because I could afford it. I need to justify what I'm buying, and I need to hear the difference. Otherwise, I'm not buying it. My dealer actually brought in a unit for me to demo, and it took me less than a minute to buy it. So, what does it do? So it's composed in 3 parts. The first part is a DA system. It converts it interprets the numbers from the CD player into analog. Then there's something called an upsampler. An upsampler takes that same information and upsamples it to the highest rate possible. And then the third box is a clock that orchestrates all of this to deliver timely musical information that you hear as a natural, very natural, close to reference sound. The music has jitter and all kinds of technical words that affect its sound when you hear it. The sound as close to reference, that is. And so any of those deviations are, timing is one of them. It's very big. Timing is everything in music, actually. In a live band, timing will either make you listen, grab you, or make you run away. So timing is everything in music. As we discovered earlier, timing on the RPMs of the LP player are also critical. So yes, timing is a huge thing. It's not a casual side effect. Now, I have very picky ears. In fact, as a musician, I always say my ears are a lot better than my hands. But my ears do pick up phenomenal detail and nuances. So when this came in, it was not subtle. It was a slap in the face. And I was thrilled, to be honest, because when I heard what it did, I said to myself, I can finally now go back to that David Bowie, MC5, and Beethoven and dial it in a second and have it and listen to it in a quality as good as what I had on the LPs. Can you imagine that? I have access to anything I want, and it will sound as good as this. There's been some records that have been outdone by the DCS unit. That's how good it is. So I'm sold. I'm done. I got it. I didn't get this in one piece because what you can do is start a little bit at a time, which is what I always do in my system. I can afford to buy all this in one chunk, but I can't justify it. I bought the DA first. I was thrilled with that alone. But then when I understood the value of upsampling and clocking, all of that information, now that I heard this, then it was a natural thing. So of course I brought in, the dealer brought in the units for me to hear the difference. Sold. So I bought this in two parts, so can you. You get the DA first and the clock and upsampler second. And now you have all this. With this, you can navigate anything you want. The PC streaming, the CDs, all you have to do is hook up your CD out to this, bypassing the DA conversion of the CD you own. Well, this CD player was, again, a very well-regarded CD player. None of these components sit in a store somewhere. They may individually, but not together. So you kind of have to know a little bit up front. Your ears will always do the final touch, but this was highly regarded as a solid player, robust player, and a great DA conversion. In the hi-fi world, a great DA conversion, even as a built-in, is critical. Most people will look for that in those components. So this is just maximizing the digital side to as good as it can get, to close to reference. Again, we always go to reference. Reference means when I play a piano sonata, you're in the room with the musicians, period. Oh yes, you can also get great sound if you're streaming. If the recording's good, absolutely. Not all recordings are done very well because obtaining this level of detail is not in everybody's living room. So people get away with more mistakes in the published works, in the published music. In fact, you can hear it in a system like this when it's not done well. It actually begins to irritate because the imperfections become center stage. It's rare, but it does happen. So this has been a really, really, really sweet victory for me because the price was stupid to start with. And then it became so smart and intelligent to get, considering where I was going, which was to discover music, but not listen to things that irritate my ears. I think this wraps it up for the digital format of my system. This is Patrick T+A signing off, and I invite you at the next episode as we continue to explore my system.